Very good afternoon to all of us here. Dibajyoti, I hope audible. Yes, I'm just waiting for Kosturi also to join in. So in the meanwhile, let me just share with you that this entire fast track career guidance, which was started just after the lockdown was started, was basically a brainwave which was to enable students, parents, and working professionals to realize the various career options which are available. And it was a methodology which we started where it was a discussion format. And, and from there, it went on to state about thinking about a masterclass webinar series, which primarily was wanting to ensure that we were able to get professionals from various industries, people who were already working, people who had already made a mark in various professions, and to engage them in a conversation which would obviously tell us about their experiences of how they took their career decision, what exactly do they do in the industry, how they view the industry, and from there on, what kind of ability, what kind of capabilities, and what kind of growth which one can perceive in each of these careers. And we must understand that while taking a career decision, we obviously have to also think about what exactly we are promising to ourselves, because we are looking at perhaps trying to become successful in what we are doing. Uh, yeah, Kosuri, good afternoon. Thank you so much. I was just
Good afternoon.
having a brief tete-a-tete. Of course, just to also introduce about NSHM, it's a college which is under Macaut University, and their courses, which they run about 57 different degree and postgraduate degree programs under which are approved by UGC, and they have over 25,000 alumni members. That's really good, and they have over 5,000 students who are already registered in these various programs. The most important thing is NSHM as an organization or an institute would always benefit from an industry interface, so that there is an institution industry interface, which enables the students also to get engaged with areas in which they are working or learning things. So today, of course, I have a stalwart, I must say. So Kosturi Bhattacharya, who is the CEO of an organization, Data Commons, which works with a lot of technological areas and a lot of domain areas, I'm sure. And they, with Kosturi's initiative, started what is called as the AI Lab. So the name itself must be quite revealing in terms of what they do. Talking about Kosturi, her career progression, right from schooling in Kolkata to doing her graduation and higher studies in the United States of America, has always been very, very interesting in the sense that she has tried to be in an area which is a little uncomfortable and getting out of the comfort zone so that she could progress further. Uh, Working from telecommunication to networking to IoT to artificial intelligence, and just when it's breaking ice, Kosturi is there. And the other part of Kosturi, which I would obviously love to listen from Kosturi, is how does she engage herself even when it is difficult times? She keeps herself motivated to ensure that that industry has shown the light of the day for as a business proposition, as a technical advancement, and then she lets go and goes to the next one, the next layer or the next sphere. So Kosturi, a quick brief idea about this, if I can go ahead with your career progression.
Thank you so much, Jay Shankar, and I would really like to thank the management of NSHM to have me here today. I'm really honored. And of course, my friends who have joined today in the middle of the week, thank you for making the time to do that. And I'm really excited to talk to youngsters, honestly, Jay Shankar, because it's in my career spanning over 27 years. There has been, I think, I have seen one of the richest experiences I have had is, getting and waiting for that new batch to join the workforce and seeing, their ideas and what they bring to the table. There are oftentimes it is there is this culture where people think that when you're joining from college into an organization, they will go through the training period and then they will, kind of be productive. But I actually see it as also they bringing so much to the table, because every generation and every batch comes with something new, especially the last 10, 15 years, it's been like that.
True.
Now addressing the question that, what you kind of address, so I will just talk briefly about myself, but I am not the important factor in this meeting at this time. So yes, you're right. I have initially, I couldn't say I chose, I almost fell into it. So when I graduated from college, I was in a college which was sitting in the telecom corridor in Texas. So it just happened so that, telecom at that time, 20, 25, 26 years ago, was undergoing a vast change. And all the telecom companies were all where the university I come from, University of Texas at Dallas, they were all right after each other. So there was Ericsson, Nortel, Cisco, Motorola, all, in one of each building, they were right after each other. So they kept on funding the universities in projects and then taking those graduates into their system. So you could say I tumbled upon it. I tumbled upon innovation. I didn't seek innovation. I didn't have the mindset at that time to seek innovation. I didn't even know. I was just graduating. But I see a marked difference with students nowadays, and I will come to those discussions a little later. So I got into it, and it happened so, I just happened to be in great companies who had an innovation track. I mean, they were the innovators at that time. I started my career with Nortel, then I moved to Cisco. So they were inventing, so to speak, telecom. They were inventing the networks. So I kind of fell with it, and then I started loving it. Then it kind of got addictive in my system. So I was with Nortel for 7 years doing RF, and all of a sudden I decided I'm going to move to Cisco doing optical networking, which is completely a different field altogether. And that's how my career progressed. And then it just happened that every time either I chose or the cosmos chose for me to get into the technology areas that was in the cutting edge. And that is how I kept on, reinventing. And later on, probably by force, because I didn't want to get kind of, so even I am this old now, I got into IoT in Ericsson in 2016. That's just when IoT was started. I didn't even know what IoT meant at that time. It was like a leap of faith. And I said, you know what, I'm going to take this up. It's as a challenge. And if it works, works. Otherwise, I can go back to my comfort zone, which never happens because the world has moved along. There is no way you can go back. And then right after that, the AI Labs opportunity came up when they offered me to lead and run AI Labs for them. Again, it was a leap of faith. I knew AI and data science was going to be the next curve of where, and I'm going to be starting at the bottom where I have to learn and learn from people who are way junior in age and experience in terms of tenureship, but in terms of knowledge, they were far and better than I was. So that's how it kind of happened.
Wonderful. So Kusturi, I mean, what you are just speaking about just reminds me of an author. I'm sure many of us have read it sometimes in the 1990s, Alvin Toffler in Future Shock. And a very interesting statement which comes up and which keeps reminding me, in the 21st century, the person who will be called illiterate is not the person who can read, write, or speak, but the person who does not know how to unlearn, learn, and relearn and learn. So that's exactly what Alvin Toffler has written in that book. And that's exactly so much meaningful in what you're talking about in terms of every career progression. And why I'm telling you this is because artificial intelligence is something which maybe the, the decade which was just about starting in 2010, we were still in something called the information age, and from there the data. And then now we are talking about artificial intelligence. And most importantly, since you're just there and obviously you're able to visualize what is there in the future, how and what do you feel the grasping power of the industry is going to be in terms of adapting artificial intelligence into their business processes, into their decision processes? Because I understand it does have a lot of efforts which goes into improve decision making systems. So if you could just throw some light about how the industry looks ahead.
Right. You're very right, Shankar, when you say that, it is just there. Actually, it is not just there. It has been there for a
Yeah,
very long time. Maybe not as prevalent and commercialized and as industrialized as today.
correct.
And there is always this, but research has been going on both on, on areas of quantum computing and basically what is this? I mean, this is another level of automation. It is
Automation.
like, having your machines process petabytes, gigabytes, and quaterbytes of data so fast that it is able to make decision based on certain logic. It is
Logic.
as simple as that, right? I mean, it is as simple. So it is, computing has been improving, or I wouldn't even say improving, it's leapfrogging in the last
Last.
decade.
Yeah.
Given that fact, the industry adoption, um, well, just to give you an example, this COVID situation, it's just into 3 months to 6 months is the window where people are really got to learn about COVID. The amount of data and the prediction that comes out, it's that is what it is. How fast people could process, take multivarious forms of data and put some logic in it so that a human brain processing it would have taken a longer time
Longer
rather
time.
than a computer kind of doing it and doing it fast. Now if you keep on teaching that computer or that machine the same set of logic and training it and training it and training it to understand the interpretation of data, that is artificial intelligence. I mean, it's almost like human intelligence, right? I mean, we call it artificial intelligence, but we also do that, when we start in our childhood, in rote, we keep on learning the tables. Our parents just tell us, learn it. Until you are learning your tables, you're not getting up from, or,
No.
you're learning the formulas, you're not getting up from that chair. So it's like that, you keep on training with a certain set of logic, which is actually built by us. The algorithms are built by human. And then you keep on training it and training and training so that there are some deductions and logical assumptions that machine can take.
Machine can take.
That's it. Yeah.
True. So I think, yeah, and the applications, perhaps earlier we were only thinking that businesses and governments would use it. Today, in our day-to-day lives, if I were to get some home delivered food or commodities, or even, I mean, in fact, a couple of years back, I would be searching for maybe a train ticket or a flight ticket. And in all my social media platforms, immediately there would be advertisers who would be talking about the various offers that they would have. And I'm sure that there's a lot of artificial intelligence which is working behind the scene to say
Absolutely.
which advertisement to push. So,
Absolutely. I mean, it has now pervaded everywhere. I mean, even simple things like the personal assistants. When you have trained a Siri or a Echo to respond to you,
correct.
Yeah, I mean, personal assistants have been working for some time. Maybe it wasn't so sophisticated and it's just getting sophisticated, more sophisticated. The more data that we have, the more. So now it has actually become pervasive without its presence being felt.
Fair.
That is, it has in a stealth mode crept up on us.
True.
Industrialization is happening now, and that is why people are talking about artificial intelligence so much. That is
Yeah,
because the scale has now exponentially grown, where
true.
people have now seen what opportunity you could have. If you have, millions of, bytes of data, you can make the right assessment in terms of what vaccination to come out in COVID or how to treat your patient. So now
Patient.
people are actively looking at it. Pharmaceutical, when you have to speed up a pharmaceutical research, which actually used to take 10 years,
10
12
years,
years,
12 years.
now you have to,
Crunch
polish
it.
it into 6 months, 12 months, which has become the order of the day. Otherwise, people will lose their life. Then you need to use these kinds of systems. There is today no alternative but to go back to it. So it is now pervasive. Not only, I think you've heard about the term Industry 4.0, where a lot of industrial processes were the mechanized processes were now getting embedded with intelligence. So when we talk about robots, earlier robots used to be just mechanical, and now it is fed. The robots are becoming intelligent. The quote unquote the word intelligent means it just has a chip where you can push decision
The
making button.
decision making
So
process.
industrialization, it is coming into pharmaceutical research, healthcare, insurance processing, bank fraud. So it is now all pervasive. And I don't, now it's like, the time where 20 years back when ERP started, adoption was very slow and people
Slow.
were very skeptical whether ERP. Now, no large business can think about having,
Not
doing business without ERP or a core banking solution.
true.
So I personally feel data science, artificial intelligence, machine learning is going to become the core and will power most of the industries at this time.
Right, Kosturi. Very, very powerful statements. And even these COVID times, in fact, yesterday I was talking to another head of an organization who are into telecommunication. And he was sharing with us about a government hospital in a district in Bengal, which uses machine to machine SIM cards to use a robo to deliver e-medicine using a camera and the entire nursing kit and everything to a COVID patient, where they are reducing the number of instances or transaction that the individual has to meet the COVID patient. So, so even the government is adopting it,
Yeah.
and what he was sharing with it was the speed at which the government is taking decisions regarding this. So it's really, unfolding into an area as right as you are saying rightly, that the small, medium-sized government enterprises, everybody is adopting the necessity to run their businesses using artificial intelligence. On the other hand, I mean, even if I look at education, for example,
Yeah.
even there, artificial intelligence is playing a vital role in terms of the transactions, whether it is in the classroom, whether it is with an individualized attention to every student, or the way that they are structuring their learning processes and the track that they want to follow. So this is really interesting. So what I can understand is that the number of opportunities on the technical side is also there. Uh, Another interesting facet which we were discussing maybe yesterday is that is it that only the technical part which is related to artificial intelligence, or is it also expanding to areas which are non-technical as well? I mean, if you could.
I'm glad you asked that question. I can quote some data. I have brought some data, but beyond the data which can be looked up in the internet. One thing is a certainty is that there would be there would be job roles and jobs of in the future that today does not exist. there will be, and those jobs, I'm not talking about 1 to 20 or 50, and I'm talking about millions. In fact, if I can quote McKinsey, they said 400 to 800 million jobs will be displaced with new competencies, but those new competencies would be replaced with learning new skills. And we are not talking here about technical skills alone. And something that you were asking. So there will be jobs where you need to humanize an AI object, AI process. So when we are talking about healthcare facilities, or even if you've noticed in some of the airports where the ticketing or the visa process is done by an artificial robot, the tonality, this understanding of the sentiment, the human sentiment, and responding back where that person has a comfort level and not in that mechanical voice, that that is a big area that is open up. We've never had that before. I mean, you just spoke about a kit that is getting prepared where medicine in the correct doses will be delivered to a patient,
Patient.
where human error would be less, and some other things would be
That
right. But suppose it's a very impersonal, we are, see how much people are suffering from mental health while we are locked up in for the last, 4 months. People are dying to get out of their houses and meet their friends and give a hug and talk to people. Why? Why are friends doing Zoom meetings and calling each other and dancing and singing in Zoom? That is because at the end of the day, we want that human touch. So we cannot build any system that is devoid of the human touch. You would need that human touch. So I think there would be a set of people that would, a set of job roles that will come who would need to be, who would need to train robots.
robots.
Yeah, who would need to understand and train scientists in how to understand sentiments. Yeah, how to one of the things we struggle with in NLP is understanding irony and sarcasm. And I'll give you an example. I was laughing about it. There was a baggage that was displaced by either British Airways or some airways, where it, and somebody wrote on Twitter, "Oh, great job, British Airways. Now you, after these are the things, you even use my baggage." And that was interpreted by the system as kudos. It's a good thing. The system could not recognize that it was sarcasm. It is actually a negative criticism. And the bot replied by saying, "Thank you so much, and we appreciate your business." So we would need so this is just a small example how jobs would be. Then we would need strategists. They don't have to be programmers and coders. They need to understand what the power of AI can do for their business.
Sure.
That understanding, that relatable thing with what my business, where my business is going, to have that vision for my business, and what a power of technology can do for that business, whether it is in the marketing area or in the fraud area or any of those areas. So, that will be a very, very, very critical role. In fact, we actually had a program where in AI Labs where we tied up with IIM. It was called MDP, Management Development Program, where we actually targeted just the top and the middle tier management, people who will be visionaries, who will be strategists. They don't need to do hands-on AI work, but they need to understand the power of this technology or what it means that it would enable their business.
Right. So very truly said. I mean, even the example that we are able to talk about is how the bot actually kind of interprets the human sentiments and how it tries to reply back. And therefore, this error is what is the amazing part. There is also another thing which I was just reading about it a few days back about, the artificial intelligence getting connected to emotional intelligence so that the humanization becomes better.
Yes.
And the interlaying bridge of the cultural intelligence being the interpreter. And here is where perhaps, the example that I was reading about is the tomato. In one part, it's called a fruit, but it is also used in a vegetable salad and not in a fruit juice. So that's true in UK, but whereas in South Korea, they actually use it as a fruit juice as well. So this combination is something which this cultural intelligence would enable an individualized and personalized approach of the bots and the other machine learning that would include in there, so that the experience of the consumer or the experience of the human is as close to as if that they were interacting with another human being. So that's what
Absolutely.
I was.
Absolutely, Jaishankar. In fact, people think AI, because we call it, loosely artificial intelligence. It's almost like you feed a set of data and some intelligent decisions come out. It's never that way.
True.
The biggest length of work, or the biggest amount of work, quantum of work that is required in any AI or ML algorithm or build up is the pre-processing of the data. That consumes almost 70% of the work, where you have to scrub, interpret, understand the data, put it in we call it classification, classify the data, and then only you refine the model, and you keep on understanding from the model and training and testing and training and testing. So
Absolutely.
here the data and the interpretation of the data is a huge area of work.
True. So I think there are a couple of questions in the between so that we can
Okay.
even discuss that,
Okay.
Kasturi. Yeah.
Sure.
So the first one, which is being, will the year 2020 be good for students? So you coming from the industry, and obviously you do recruit workforce for your organization, and of course people whom you train, because I understand that AI Labs is already tied up with IIM and also has done the entire process of handholding Macaut to get into artificial intelligence. So I would love to hear from you how you are engaged with Macaut.
Oh, yeah. No, we haven't done. We are still doing. We
Okay.
actually teach MTech in AI and MTech in data sciences in Macaut.
Wow.
And it is ongoing. I mean, earlier we used to go and teach in Horingata. Right now we are doing it online. So that was the first batch that last year AICTE, when AICTE published its courses and said that now you have to include data sciences and AI in your engineering streams. That's when I had a discussion with VC, and VC sir is very his outlook is amazing. The way he thinks, and the reason they have AI lab, because they have fantastic professors in Macau. They have PhDs and postdoctorals. So do we, incidentally. But the reason was especially because there used to be, and there still is, which AICTE also recognizes as a gap. In my 25 years of experience, as you know, whenever we hired students from whether a science background or engineering background or whichever background,
True.
there is at least a 3 to 6 month period of training that used to go on in these companies,
Absolutely.
and to make them, industry ready. That was the term that used to be used. Then, as economies downturn started and things got crunched and crunched and crunched, more and more the companies started looking towards academics to produce almost ready-made people who would be productive from day one. And since, we AI labs and data core, as you just said in the beginning, and also I coming from the industry of this experience, we realize that there is that gap, and that is why we built this curated training programs. That we really need to bridge, because there's somewhere there is a gap between an academic research and an academic curriculum and the use cases that are used to teach vis-a-vis what the industry needs. Even the best of students, when they come to the industry, it takes a long time for them to correlate the theories to what is the practical usage and application in terms of a project. And since in data code we were already implementing so many. Actually, it came from the need of us trying to create AI talent and competency. We were not finding it in Calcutta. And so we thought, why don't we start a company where not only do we serve our own needs, we also start serving the industry needs and get in between the industry and the academics. And soon academia will pick up, but it will take a few years. Okay, so that's why. So when we started with Professor Moitro, it is exactly that. He said, you know what, don't go and teach dry things on the table. We have enough professors to do that. You teach students through your projects, through live projects. You emulate and show what is AI.
Correct.
You emulate and show what is NLP. You emulate and show where it is used, and then reverse engineer and teach the theories. So that's what we've been doing. So last year, August was the first batch that joined on MTech in AI. And in fact, they started a BTech. We didn't have the bandwidth to do the BTech classes as well. We were requested to also take the BTech classes, but I didn't have enough faculty to teach both MTech and BTech. So we thought we'll take a little more, matured students. But however, in our classes, all the BTech students used to come and join. When we were taking MTech classes, people from all computer science and all the BTech engineering courses used to come and sit in our classes, which we said it's fine. Education is for everybody. So we are still teaching. In fact, we are just completing the exams for this semester right now, because we are online and we have learning management systems and everything in place.
Wonderful. And so therefore, you do see that there is a lot of recruitments which are happening even during these COVID periods?
I can give you two kinds of data. One is my personal, what I have done, and I can give you data that is produced by LinkedIn, CIO.com, and MIT Sloan. So I'll just give you a quote. This is as of 2nd July 2020, so this month. The data is as fresh as this month. CIO.com says, AI engineering are the top job getters, and it says that so the topping the list are AI, data science, cloud architects, data analysts, DevOps engineer, out of which 344% recruit of the total workforce have happened in AI and ML engineering.
Okay.
128% in robotics and 116% in computer vision engineering.
Wow.
All related to AI. LinkedIn report of top 2020 emerging jobs report, this also came out in July, says that AI job had 74% growth in the last 4 years, followed by robotic engineering and data science. An IDC report, again very recent report, this month's report, there is a 27% job growth in AI related job during the pandemic period.
Amazing.
Yeah, and now making it more close to home, I myself have recruited, as of last week, I have recruited students who are going to be part of our AI team, AI projects team. I have recruited about 10 people in this pandemic situation, and we are a very small company. So yes, I personally believe that this hiring trend is going to go on.
Go on. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And so therefore, even, I mean, I think you're answering Ayush, I hope that clarifies his thing. Of course, there are more questions, because many of them regarding can't AI start improving itself? So we did talk about iteration there. And then there was something related to what could be the role of AI and ML and IoT operations. So you being a person who has walked both the paths, you could share that with us. Yeah.
Yeah, so AI is at the heart of the engine, right? AI interprets data. So the data source can be anything. So IoT is one of the data sources. So IoT is that physical device that picks that data up from, so it's sensors. IoT in a sense is a sensor. So it has the capability to pick data, transmit data, and also receive
Output.
the command and execute that command. So there is no contention between IoT and AI. So AI can interface. AI is the heart of the intelligence, which means the algorithm, which works with data to give an analysis or a decision. And the data sources can be multivariate, and IoT is one of the data sources, very much one of the data sources. In fact, we are currently doing a project for one of the a very large global, they manufacture gas, basically. I mean, this is the largest manufacturer of gas, so I think you might know what the name is. We are actually doing that. They're bringing in production efficiency. We are reading data from their sensor-based machines in their production facility, and we are creating an AI model on top of it.
Wow. That's really interesting to know. So, Kosturi, I mean, since you were recruiting these talents, so I'm sure, students, they have to undergo an interview process. And today, with the COVID situation, I'm sure all of them were happening online. So what happened maybe 5 months ago when you were able to do a face-to-face interview vis-a-vis an online interview? So being an interviewer, what exactly have you brought in as changes, or what new methodologies that you're adopting in the entire interviewing process? If you could maybe throw highlights, one. And the second thing is, okay, fine. So somebody's come with a qualification from any of these streams, which is fine. Apart from the qualification, I'm sure there are some other things that you look out in these candidates. What are those areas that, when you are looking for somebody who's going to work in the AI area, what are those areas that you look for?
So, so let me give you two areas. When I say hiring, I also meant the interns. One was there was a lot of students who were utilizing this time when their colleges were off and they had free time on their hands. They were doing a lot of online courses. That we had quite a few students that enrolled for our online classes in our data sciences, AI, and also they had to fulfill that industrial requirement, so they were doing that. What we did is while they were taking the classes, so we have a learning management system, a full-fledged learning management system, which is a virtual room where an instructor teaches. We have our courses also on, given in that library, so so while undergoing those classes, and which is also, as I said, it is very hands-on. So we had projects also. We involved them in projects, which is done in cloud. There are few students that we thought we could offer them internships if they were interested, and in the kind of products and projects we are doing. So post the classes, we absorb them as interns, but long-term interns, not like a 4 weeks, 6 weeks. Some of them are working with us for like already 3 months, almost 4 months. And there are people I have even from Bangalore who are working on projects with us, we have never seen in person. Or in fact, even the Kolkata people we haven't seen. All this was happening during COVID. So we have about 7. In fact, there is one intern from US also working with us. So we have 7, 8, about 10 interns working with us right now. Okay, all online. On the interviews, what we did was earlier, the Normal was you call them for a, you give them written exams, you put them in a room, they take their exams, they submit their paper, they walk out, then somebody scores them, and then you call back for an interview. They physically come and they kind of give you a face-to-face interview. Then if they do the first round well, then the second round they're called again with another, and an HR
Senior.
round and all. So it was so simple this time. We just opened up our LMS. We have an assignment. We already had in place because of the way we our training modules, because they are assignment based. We just opened them up, gave them the assignments through the virtual rooms. They just appeared, did the thing. We did an online assessment. We submitted the scores online so they could see their scores. Then we called them for video. Happened in earlier if the process took 1 month, 2 months. Now it happened in 10 days.
Wow.
So yeah,
So,
obviously it was all online and so fast.
wow,
Um,
that's really
so
interesting to hear.
and then we rolled out the offer. In fact, there are people who are joining us. We have rolled out the offer. One gentleman has joined from Jaunpur in UP, a girl, and then one gentleman is joining from Punjab. So that's how we're even doing the joining formalities through video conferencing.
Wow, that's really
Yeah,
nice.
yeah. So yeah, I mean but this might be the new normal. Who knows? Maybe we won't want to go back to our traditional ways of working. This is the new normal.
That, of course, is something which everybody is talking about because we are seeing an environment, we are seeing a climate which perhaps we've not seen for some years, and then the pollution levels being down. So maybe we would love to be in this kind of a situation, of course, minus the COVID.
Yes, of course. Yes, of
So
course.
that's the truth. Yeah,
But
that's really
I think what it unleashed, the positive part of it, what it unleashed is, you know, how a human mind can handle crisis and get over crisis. I think everybody wants to be productive. Everybody wants to be efficient. It just got proven that all the challenges, when people thought everything would be a standstill, anyone I talk to say I am more busy than I ever was.
wow.
So and so I think in a way subconsciously also we are adopting to this way of working,
Yes,
and maybe it opens up more opportunities. We can be more global at this time
true.
because geographical boundaries are going away.
Going away. That's true. There's just one more point which somebody has asked for, which is related to uh, okay, nowadays we all know about the demand of computer science engineering students is very high. So my question is, will it continue or is there probability of change in demand of a branch in few upcoming years? And a very similar line, which is that how is it connected with cybersecurity and there's a career there? I mean, artificial intelligence. So yeah, would you like to throw some light on that?
I actually want to really address this point. And I want to drive a point when we talk about traditional education and we are talking about education today. And I would, there are things that are becoming so interdisciplinary. In rest of the world, it has gained a huge momentum, and India would soon be catching up, is my feel. I'll just give an example. Computational biology, you know, is using the biggest amount of AI right now, okay, in the West. Which stream do you think it belongs to? Is it microbiology? Is it genetic engineering? Is it computer science? What is it? It's all of them or neither of them. So I think what my advice would be is people to not go by just how things are structured today, or 5 years back or 10 years back. When I did my engineering, we didn't have these many streams. I've never heard of a stream called IT, right? Information technology was never a stream in our times. Telecommunications engineering was never a stream in our time. I did computer science and then I fell into the telecom industry and learned about telecom. But it was never an engineering stream.
Absolutely.
So I would urge students to, internet is a vast teacher. It can be a bad teacher also, very bad teacher. But, do your research. Just there's so much data. There is so much available on the internet. Just be on the lookout. I know there are people or kids that I know are passionate about music and they're passionate about physics. I know somebody who is doing a PhD in Stanford, which is a combination of instrumentation and music. Her major will come out as PhD in music and instrumentation. So her area is instrumentation and physics, application of physics in the music industry, or in the. So please, I would say, just break the boundaries. Whatever excites you, whatever you're passionate about. Many a times, don't think that sometimes we don't know. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was going to college. I just knew an engineering degree is a ticket to the world, or a science degree is a ticket to the world. Was I passionate at that time? Maybe not. There are kids that are extremely passionate. I've seen that they don't have any formal training but passionate about robotics. They can just create things and zoom cars and do all those kinds of things. So you might not even know what you're passionate about, but I think keep your eyes and ears open. Just keep on reading through things, go to other universities. Look what research is being done, say in Stanford or MIT or Purdue or Virginia Tech, or in Australia, Canada, Europe. Just see what they're doing. And today things are evolving in a way where you will not, in 5 years from now, you will possibly not have something called a stringent computer science, a stringent electrical engineering, a civil, or it might be interdisciplinary, and that is the future.
Wonderfully stated. I think interdisciplinary is what is going to become a very important facet. And this is exactly where the necessity that we are constantly being dissatisfied with what we are doing and constantly searching for that uncomfortable zone of trying to learn a new thing. And obviously, as Kosturi is saying, that you must be passionate about it. It's not something you're doing it because somebody else is doing it, because you are interested in doing it. And that's a very vital factor. And in today's world, everything is available in your fingertips. I mean, you can search what is happening all over the world, and you must learn how to search information. That's also a very vital aspect of search, if I might use it. And a factoring which, thanks what you're talking about, Kosturi, starting from a technical degree, you now are a chief executive officer of an organization, which means that you not only hold the functional aspect, you also hold the human resource aspect, you also hold the financial aspect, you also hold the bottom line of the business, and you are responsible for the stakeholders, be it the industry, be it the investors. Kosturi, I'm sure you did not have time to go back to do an MBA.
I don't have an MBA. I'm just a poor engineer.
So this is another intriguing question which I would like you to throw light on. How did you, from a technical techie, a tech nerd, engage yourself to get into administration and then to business and then to running an organization? I mean, it's no mean task. Yeah, if you could just share with us, how did that strike? Because that's a parallel road.
See, I don't think I had this kind of insight or it was by design. But looking back, if I were to give you an answer of how, I think what education does is gives us the foundation. When you come out of that college, it gives you a degree where you have gone through certain amounts of rigor to get to a point. The minute you leave your college, that is where the learning starts. And that learning happens every day from every role and every task and every activity you do. What you did in college, those 4 years were just like your algebra and arithmetic in class. You wouldn't have been able to do trigonometry or calculus if you didn't have those. That's it. By no means in those 4 years or 5 years, you become an expert or guru in anything. Your learning starts from the day you start actively participating in the world and making something of yourself. So I think that's how I personally believe that's what it is. I think anyone can do anything.
Very true. So very critical facet. It is what life throws at you, and how do you catch it, and how do you grab it to go forward, which is a very vital factor you have touched upon. And this is another skill set, perhaps in many of the industries. We do start looking at individuals while interviewing, that do they have that wherewithal, or do they have that fire in the belly to push themselves forward, to keep themselves self-motivated. Because the moment they start growing, automatically the job that they do will automatically grow, the organization will grow, and the industry would grow. And that's how the entire wheel works. So that's one category.
In fact, you asked me this question earlier and I probably forgot to address it, that how do you choose? And you have absolutely hit it on the nail. That is the differentiation. Because in paper, when somebody is doing their written, and then when you're, the difference between that written and the verbal and the interview is exactly this. You just look for those signs where you can't expect a fourth year engineering student for knowing everything that is required to do your job that you are doing for a huge company today. It's not possible.
Not possible.
All you look for, do you have the fundamentals? Do you know the fundamentals of, of the area or the subject we are looking for? But beyond that, what matters is what are you?
Correct.
If I throw you into the water, will you be able to swim or will you sink?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that is the fundamental difference of getting hired.
Wonderfully said. I think, Kosturi, I think because you have had the opportunity to recruit boys and girls from various colleges over the years. So in a summated manner, which I want to share with everybody today, is what Kosturi shared with us was artificial intelligence is here to stay. And what was perhaps a lot of research work and what we were going through, today the adoption process is so fast, so humongous, whether the government, whether it's a small enterprises, whether it is education, whether it is health, whether it is rural economy, whether it is the government, whether it's the banking sector, everywhere it's getting absorbed. And therefore, the workforce that is required to work in these areas is also going to be a huge gap. And obviously, trained workforce, as Kosturi rightly pointed out, earlier there used to be a 3-month, 6-month gestation period, orientation period, which could be called the probation period. Today, institutions have to produce people, have to produce what is called as industry-ready professionals. And in that process, the companies also want those candidates to hit the road running. They don't want them to stop. The day they are joining the company, they want them to become productive. And this is also becoming a big norm. The third important factor which Kasturi highlighted upon. Of course, her whole lifespan and career, which I did read and I did understand, is her enabling factor of being constantly uncomfortable. And as she rightly pointed out, almost during the end, is today does not exist. And that is a very vital factor with which we'll have to look at tomorrow with a fresh inkling, with a fresh, exuberance to learn something new, to do something new. Maybe you're doing the same thing in a different way. That's also a learning. And that's exactly why I was touching upon her interviewing process. What she mentioned was very vital. She said, I was doing a 5-step procedure to recruit a person, which used to take a month long. I identified that the entire process doing it online during these COVID times just took us 10 days. And she found it efficient by 66%. And for a business person, that's the first thing she will say, hey, we have reduced the turnaround time for recruiting a person. Correct? And keeping that in mind, this is what we need to do. We need to also understand one important facet. When I speak to students, I talk about learning efficiency. Maybe till you were in the class 10, you could read 500 pages to appear for your board exams. In 2 years' time, in your 11, 12, you had to do about 5,000 pages. But in today's world, you need to learn how to do 5,000 pages in maybe a period of 3 months. You need to learn faster. You need to learn more efficiently. And that is becoming a very vital role for you to keep pushing yourself forward. And that's why the zone of uncomfort. Anything new that we learn is always risky, because whenever we learn something new, we make mistakes, and we have a fear of making mistakes. And that's why we stop learning. And this is what we need to break through, that we have to be in the zone of comfort that we need to work on. And we need to get uncomfortable on a regular basis. So thank you so much, Kosturi. It was wonderful having a discussion with you. Any final remarks that you want to share with students? Because your love for students is also tremendous. I know that.
Thank you so much, and I would again thank you, Jai Shankar, for providing this opportunity for me, and NSHM. Very thanks a lot for this is an honor to be part of your system. What I would like to say also, if I see there are about 21, 23 questions lying there. I don't know if we addressed all of them or even if it's possible, but you're more than welcome to share my ID. It's kasturi.bhattacharjee@ailabs.academy. I can leave it on the chat. And if you wish, you can reach out to me. Let me just type it.
Yeah. And this is what about Kosturi is, and when she's working with an entire functionality, she gives it wholeheartedly that everybody must be part of her team, and that's really wonderful to know. Yeah.
So
Kosturi,
if you want to ask any questions to me, I would be very happy to provide advice, and of course, Jai Shankar, you as well. If any questions come your way, the office stands. I will send you my answers as best as I can.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kosturi, for your time, and it's really wonderful having you today.
Thank you so much.
Good luck. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, NSHM, and thank you to all the viewers that were there.